The following interview is by James Lowe with author Dan Perkins on his new book, Abraham Lincoln and the Second Assassin.
Dan Perkins is going to join us here in just a few moments. I love Dan Perkins. And we're going to go to the great Dan Perkins here in just a few moments. The amazing Dan Perkins. The man about town Dan Perkins. Star, Stage, and Screen Dan Perkins. Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
So, Dan, you have been writing books like crazy.
And 11 years.
One of the books that, and we talked about your novel the other day, your romantic novel.
Yeah, Sad Eyes.
Today, I want to talk about this Abe Lincoln book.
Yes, sir.
And sir, who walked in behind me? So I don't think I've ever used that one on Dan. So one of the things that you said the other day that I find amazing is you said you had a contest or you had a bet with somebody about, I bet you don't know how the book ends. And whoever you were talking to was like,
on the dust cover jacket of the Lincoln book.
Okay.
There's two. It's two books, first and second, and on the back of the book it says that if you can figure out the ending of this book without cheating, meaning looking at the last few pages, you can figure it out, I will buy the book back from you, or I'll give you a refund of what you paid and you can keep the book.
Okay. So,
now,
do you ever have anybody come to you and say, hey, I know how this ends. Lincoln dies.
No, because everybody who reads the book, and I've told them about the bet, and I hear things, I'm a good mystery reader, or I can read thrillers, I'm really good. And they come back to me at the end of the book and they say, no way.
No way.
Most phenomenal ending I've read, I can ever remember reading, and it was a perfect ending for the book. And so it's really a situation where, as I may have mentioned to you before, it took about 4.5 years to write this book, and over 6 months to edit it.
Really?
Yeah. And wow. I would say, as I said about Sad Eyes, probably about half of my time spent in writing the Lincoln book was the research that I did, because what I try to achieve, especially in this Lincoln book, which is written in first person, which we started to talk about in the last interview.
Yeah.
First person is very difficult to write. Most novels are written in third person. He said, she said, they. But when you write in first person, you write for the moment. The reader is in the moment the events are taking place on the pages. And so I think it makes for, especially in both thrillers and mysteries, and the historical facts, you immediately begin, as you begin to say, no, wait a minute, now was that fact or was that fiction I just read? And so what happens is the further you get into the book, the more believable the fiction is, and the more you want to believe that it's true.
Really?
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit about Lincoln.
Okay.
I've been a student of Lincoln for 30 years.
Really?
I collected, I had a library of books written by any of Lincoln's cabinet members who had published a book, including Gideon Welles, who was the Secretary of Navy, who was the diarist for the Lincoln administration. He wrote a 2-volume book. Nicolay and Hay, who were private secretaries, did a 12-volume set, which, by the way, Jim, is absolutely unreadable. You can't read it. It just, it's struggle is not the word. It is punishment to try and read those 11 or 12 volumes. And I was reading it, and I was on a business trip to Hawaii, and I had it to read on the airplane from the East Coast to Hawaii, and I struggled with it on the plane. And I stayed at a wonderful hotel in Hawaii, and for some reason, I left that book in the hotel. And about 2 weeks later, it arrived at my doorstep. Damn, I couldn't lose it. They had to send it to me. So it was just amazing. So what?
Dan, we're gonna do this. I'm
Okay.
gonna place you on a brief hold real quick. I don't know what the hell is going on, so we are going to figure it out. So here's some promos.
Recently, we received news from the president that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. President Biden is misleading the American people on inflation. It is true that energy went down, but other important items went up, like food. Over the previous month, food was up 12% on an annualized basis for the month of July. Electricity was up 19.2% on an annualized basis in July. Just to name a few items that went up in July besides food and power, new cars and trucks, medical care, and shelter were all costing you more. Don't believe what Biden is saying to you about zero inflation. Look at your checkbook or your credit card statement. You must protect your family from the ravages of inflation. You need to find out if gold is right for you. Go to blackandwhites.us, and on the homepage, click on the gold bar and get connected to our gold guru, Ira, at Advisors Metals. And ask Ira, is gold right for me?
Okay, we're back with the great Dan Perkins. So Dan, pick up where you left off, my friend. I apologize for the interruption.
No problem. So in writing this book, I mean, if you think about it, if you went into the library and you looked in the historical section, you could probably find one of the largest sections in the library on books written about Abraham Lincoln. So people said to me, so what makes you so smart that you could write a book on Lincoln that hasn't already been written? I said, good question. I said, I decided that I wanted to look at it from the standpoint of the economics involved. Now, I'm going to help you and your audience understand by just giving you the synopsis of the prologue, the long prologue. It is 1857, and we're in Manchester, England. In 1857, Manchester, England was the textile capital of the world. It was the largest purchaser of southern cotton. Millions and millions and millions of bales of cotton went from the south by ship to Manchester. The mills were running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, shipping finished goods, all material, yard goods, all over the world to be put into clothes and all kinds of stuff. And they have what they call the Manchester Textile Merchants Association, which is an association of all of the members who are owned textile mills in the Manchester area. Very powerful, huge amounts of money being made, very influential in British government, just very powerful community. And so in 1857, the head of the Merchant Association, who is one of the largest mill owners in the town, calls a meeting to get an update of what's going on in America. And they have a meeting, and they talk about the Missouri Compromise, which stopped a potential war, but the operatives for the Merchants Association in the United States suggest that they need to have more people on the ground to follow what's going on in politics and the government, and you better start paying attention to this attorney in Illinois who's now being talked about as a possible vice presidential candidate in the 1860 election. So they talk and they agree and they send some people over as operatives. And the second part of the prologue moves to 1862. They're meeting again, but things are very different. The South has seceded. America is being torn apart by a civil war. Lincoln has embargoed all Southern cotton. Can't be shipped anywhere. They've got ships, Navy ships that are stopping them from getting in. The price of cotton, which was before the war 6 to 8 cents a pound, is now $3 a pound, if you can get it. So the Merchants Association is called to an emergency meeting. The unemployment rate in Manchester is over 25%. Poverty abounds. Crime is up. And they get together and they're talking about the devastation that this war in America has caused to them. And the head of the Merchants Association stands up and says the following: I want to introduce you to Ian McKenzie. We are going to hire him to go to the United States and kill the president and get our cotton. That's I can't hear you, Jim.
I said, holy smokes. It's amazing.
So this guy is a hired assassin. He's killed over 50 people in Europe, mostly in England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. But he's a professional killer. And he is very cautious about what he does. He spends a lot of time. And so the head of the Merchants Association is meeting with him to find out the details and what does he want to kill Lincoln. The largest fee he's ever charged. I'm not going to tell you how much. That's in the book.
That's in the book, yes.
That's in the book. Largest fee, and the head of the Merchant Association said, "Oh my God, that's an enormous amount of money." He said, "Don't you have an enormous business that's at risk here?" Yes. So they agreed to pay, and he gets on a ship in Liverpool, goes into Canada, and he gets there in November because he wants to work his way down undercover.
Okay.
He doesn't want to come into an East Coast port in the United States because he doesn't want to raise any attention. So he goes into Canada, checks in a hotel, meets a young woman, and they both kind of fall in love. And he works all the way through the winter and into the spring, where he's working on his shooting skills. He joins a shooting club, and he's practicing with pistols and rifles, because he has no idea how he's going to kill Lincoln at the moment, but he wants to make sure that his skills are superb. And he ultimately has to leave, and he leaves his love and says he hopes he can come back. He can't tell her what his mission is other than it's dangerous. Stops in Boston and meets a very famous abolitionist attorney in Boston. I'm not going to tell you his name. And he talks with him about the war and abolition and slavery, and he meets another woman who is a very famous author of Uncle Tom's Cabin. She's in the book, and he talks with her about what was going on. And he works his way, and he finally gets into Washington, D.C., and he's staying at a hotel down the street from the White House. And he's looking at the White House, and he's looking at it from his hotel. And he's got a very, very powerful, very accurate rifle. but it's only good up to about 500 yards. So he goes downstairs and literally almost puts his back on the hotel and starts pacing to the White House to see how far a shot he would have to shoot Lincoln coming out of the front door of the White House.
Wow.
And he turns around, and as he starts to walk back to the hotel, not paying attention, and he gets knocked down. And he's laying on his back looking up in the sun, and this big hand comes out and said, "I'm sorry, and can I help you up?" And it's Abraham Lincoln who helps him get up off the street.
Wow. Holy
Now-
smokes. So why did you decide that you just had to write a Lincoln book after there's so many of them out there?
I was and am an avid admirer of Lincoln, and an avid student of the Civil War, and I was never so much involved in the battles as much as I was in the people and the decisions that they made during the war.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are well known in this book, where we get an intimate look into them and their decision-making process, their frustration and anger and jealousy of Lincoln becoming president, and it's a situation where then things turn again. And what happens is, as our assassin has made his way into Washington, D.C., as the book is titled, Abraham Lincoln and the Other Assassin, or the Second Assassin.
Yeah.
The other assassin, John Wilkes Booth, who lives in Maryland, outside of the city of Washington, D.C., takes the train from Baltimore into Washington, D.C. to go to Ford's Theater, where he's performing. That particular train stop is very, very dangerous because the city of Baltimore is torn between the Confederacy and the North. And so it has not been uncommon for trains to be ransacked, burned, people hurt. So he gets on the train and he goes to his compartment. This is Booth. He goes to his compartment and there's somebody sitting in his compartment. And he was supposed to have a private compartment. And it's Ian McKenzie sitting in Booth's compartment. They sit down and they start a conversation, and they talk about each other and what they're doing, and they actually start a friendship.
I'll tell you've got quite the book here, my friend.
Well, it's two books, and it's people who read the book, their initial reaction is, well, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? Is this fake? Is this true? Where is it? Where does the line part between fact and fiction? And I say to them, you figure it out. Because my job as a novelist in telling a story is to tell a story that's compelling and makes you want to turn the page. And so if I have to create what I would call probable events as opposed to actual events that make sense, it makes the book more interesting, and people get very interested in the book. It's the same kind of reaction I had with Sad Eyes. People who have read Sad Eyes, I tell them they shouldn't start it after 9 o'clock at night because, as I mentioned to you before, I write in very short chapters. Sometimes a chapter can be one page. And I do it purposely because I want the reader to say, well, this is short, I'll read another one more. And they keep turning the page, and so they're up all night reading. That's why I say don't start after 9 because you will be up. They're hard to put down. Got cliffhangers, and sometimes the cliffhangers aren't totally resolved until the second book. but it is a I think it is different enough that it will be able to distinguish itself, because it's not so much a story. There are sections in the book where we concentrate on Lincoln, but really it's more the story of the second assassin.
Yes.
And his relationship with Booth, because neither one of them know that the other is the assassin.
It's amazing. Have you had anybody approach you about turning this into a movie or a TV show or anything?
Yes.
Because I'll tell you, this would be a barn burner, as they say.
Well, it's in both Sad Eyes and Lincoln. They were the first two. I told you on our previous interview, when I was writing the fourth book in the Brotherhood trilogy, I had written half of it in first person, half in third person, and my publisher said, you got to get rid of the third person. So that was really the first novel that I published in first person. These two, Sad Eyes and Lincoln and the Second Assassin, are first person. And for some people, there are a lot of people who have not had the experience of reading a book written in first person, because a lot of people's favorite authors always write in third person.
Well, I'll tell you.
But to put you in the middle of Ford's Theater, I'm not giving it away, or on a train coach coming from Baltimore to Washington D.C., or the team of people that work with Booth, who are trying to figure out how they're going to help Booth do what he wants to do with Lincoln, the trips to Canada by Booth, the trips to Richmond to meet with Jefferson Davis and talk about the idea of assassinating Lincoln, and his acquiesce to do it, which is true. But it's there's a lot of things that a lot of people know, but there's an equal amount of stuff that people don't know.
Yes. And
stuff that I actually created, so you get a sense of, in many respects, what it's like to be a professional assassin, because we understand and see how he thinks and he works and how he does stuff. But he's also a human being. He's in love with this woman, and who's in Canada, and he doesn't know whether he's ever going to get back to see her again. And she him. And so there's the intertwining of all these stories about people under the concept of the second assassin. And when I tell people the story about the book, they said, I'm sure there was more than one assassin. But to my knowledge, I haven't been able to find a book that is written about another assassin and his relationship with the first assassin, the real assassin. And I had somebody tell me when they finished the book, and they said, there's no way I would ever challenge you to get my money back, because I read it, and when I finished the last page, I just sat in my chair. I was dumbfounded. I'm amazed at how you ended it, but I was dumbfounded that I couldn't see, as a professional reader, how I couldn't see that coming. But I didn't, and that was made it so surprising, the way you ended the book. And so part of being a writer is to engage people. But you can't write 100%. I think I told you I wrote Sad Eyes while I was writing Lincoln, because I needed a break, because the Lincoln book was so intense, because I was so intent on getting it done. But I had a friend of mine when I first started writing. Good friend, used to work for me, and then we became friends after I left and he left, and we were talking about the Brotherhood books, And I said to him, I never know how many pages should be. And he said, look, let the story tell you the number of pages. Don't try and write 250 or 375 or 420. Tell the story. And if the story's too wordy, then you can cut it back.
Yeah.
But let the story let the people get the full richness of your talent by putting all the words on the paper to make the story so compelling, so engaging, so mystifying, and so entertaining.
We have got Dan Perkins with us today, and as we wrap up here with Dan, how do we get the book and get in touch with you and everything?
Okay, well, you can buy a lot of my original books at Amazon.com. Sad Eyes and Abraham Lincoln and the Second Assassin, I believe, are on Amazon and all the normal places. But there's a special deal with the publisher called
HollisMedia.net.
They've taken both books, the two Lincoln books and the Sad Eyes book, and put them in a special package. Not only a special package, special pricing, and a way that you can finance it so it's affordable to buy.
Well, Dan, this has been another great interview, and I look forward to talking to you soon. What is your next book?
I'm working on a new book, and I think I mentioned to you last time, I write up here first before I put it on paper.
Yeah.
So I'm writing right now the new book. And it's a single word title. The title of the new book is called Evil.
Fantastic. Well, Dan, I will talk to you next Tuesday. Thanks for doing this, my friend, and I will talk to you soon.
Right.